Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and a very warm welcome to you on this Sunday evening to the Red and Blue Review. My name is Nick Philpott. I'm your host for the next hour, and I'll shortly be joined by some usual ones and some unusual ones that we haven't seen for a while. So I hope you're all well. Don't forget you can find us at any time by simply going to our Red and Blue Review webpage and find our entire back catalogue of shows that we've done previously, including good interviews with Steve Coppell, John Solarco, and quite a few others. So please jump onto our website and have a look at us. You'll find us on our YouTube channel, of course, on all the Facebook groups. And if you're listening back on your commute to work on Tuesday morning, because it's a bank holiday tomorrow, I hope you're enjoying it. You hope you enjoy the show. I can see a few of you joining us out there. Daniel Garlick, good evening to you. Dawn, how are you? Graham Kitcher's out there, buddy. I hope you're well. Tim Davis, Mark Callahan, Tom Clark Samuels out there, and everybody else. Greg, is anybody else going to join us this evening? Because it's getting quite lonely on my own. Hello, Jel. Good evening, mate.
You all right, mate? How you doing?
I'm all right, buddy. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. And good evening, Ian Noble. Oh, my good God. Good evening, Ian Noble. How are you doing?
Evening, Nick. Evening, everyone. I'm good, thank you. Very well indeed. We have a new guest on the show tonight.
Like I said in the preamble, ladies and gentlemen, we have some of the regulars and some not so regulars. Ian playing and tinkling on his ivories there. Ian Lyons, welcome back, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. Good to see the old gang back.
We're all here, mate. We're all here. We never go anywhere. It's you that keeps disappearing and coming back again. And in the background, of course, we have producer Greg Ellis. Greg, how are you, man?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, how are you all?
All good, mate. All good. I hope the family are well. So we are going to be looking back on yesterday's 1-1 draw. I don't know why I'm saying 1-1 draw, because it's always a bloody draw against that lot away at Brentford. And to Ian Noble and anybody else that actually went to the game yesterday, please accept my congratulations. The weather conditions we described pre-show as biblical. They were absolutely monsoon. I mean, I was listening to it on the radio. All I could hear was the noise of the rain hitting the roof of the stands that they were broadcasting from. So they were having real trouble with their sound, very simply because of the weather conditions. So congratulations to you all. Ian, how was it over there? Noble.
Yeah, it was good. We didn't get wet getting into the ground, which was the first objective. There's a bit of feedback somewhere on this call tonight. I don't know where it's coming from, but it really is feedback. So mute if you're not talking, I would suggest, guys. The rain started about midway through the first half, early in the first half. And when it came down, as you say, unbelievable, biblical proportions, as I said earlier, that rain, it was ridiculous. And at one point you think, actually, can they play in this? It was that bad. And then next minute, sunshine, so it was very much a stand in the rain and stand in the sun. We are South London's number one. Yesterday was a favourite song, I think.
Yeah, very good indeed, mate. Very good. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. For those of you who are not at work tomorrow, Crystal Palace under-21s face Fulham under-21s in SE25. Tomorrow, Monday the 28th of August, kickoff is at 1:00 lunchtime. Looking to build on a dramatic 3-2 opening day that we covered last week against Man United. When Palace and Fulham met in the under-21s last season, they shared 7 goals between them in the 2 fixtures. So an entertaining match lies in store. Get yourselves down there if you can and support the guys, because don't forget, I think we also had a record crowd there when the under-21s played at Selhurst last season? I believe so. So, Ian, Ian Noble, maybe you kick us off with the match details and the match stats. Greg, I'm sure you got some images there from yesterday. So over to you, mate.
Thank you very much. Jel, Ian, Nick, just let me know if you want to chip in at any time rather than me go on and on about the game. But yeah, I think we started brightly enough, to be fair. As an eye who combined well and fed Edouard early doors up the other end to us in the first half, attacking the home end. And he sort of fluffed his lines from where I was sitting. But when you look at it back, it was a difficult chance. You know, there were defenders that did really well around him. So that was a good move. I thought Tyrick Mitchell had another good game, Joe. We talked about him on Tuesday, didn't we? How well he played against Arsenal. He had another good game yesterday and kept Brian Mbeumo quiet. Now, Mbeumo, if you play fantasy, you'll know that he's the next best thing. Everyone's raving about him, how great he is. And certainly in the first 2 Brentford games of this season, he delivered. But we kept him completely quiet yesterday, and he didn't really have much of a chance to get on the score sheet or assist himself. So that was part of the reason we did okay yesterday. Eze then had a soft shot on target, but, you know, it was typical Eze. You know, he runs through, he picks the ball up deep, you know, he drops his shoulder and he gets away from his marker. But it was a relatively tame effort on goal that their keeper dealt with comfortably. And then came their goal on 18 minutes. Probably you could argue against the run of play. It was a really good cross-field ball from one of their guys to their German player, Schade, I think you say his name. And whilst we're all raving about the other two, Whistler is the other one that's caught the headlines for Brentford. But this guy, he hadn't scored for Brentford before yesterday. And he picked the ball up on the left wing and he just ran inside. It was almost Zaha-esque what he did with the ball. You know, Joel Wall got criticised afterwards for not getting a foot in, but he didn't really do much wrong. He was jockeying him. He was keeping him, you know, where he thought he should have him. And then he shot, you know, cut inside on his right foot. Unstoppable. Really great goal, Nick.
Yeah, I disagree with what you just said there. Joel didn't do anything wrong. He should have showed him out. He should have showed him on the outside. He showed him on the inside. The guy cut in and did what you actually said Zaha would do. He didn't show him out. He showed him in, and that's what he got away from him. Go on, Joe. Argue.
I don't have to argue. I'll just say that everybody's favourite at the moment, Jordan Ayew. Watch it. Watch the goal. Watch from the camera behind. He embarrassed himself yesterday. He didn't help. He hardly helps Walls. And it's in that situation, as soon as he cut in to put it on his right foot, watch him. Watch Ayew. Stands there and looks at him. I'd rather have kicked him and give him a penalty. But and again, like you say, the goal was very reminiscent of the goal that Wilf scored against Huddersfield, I think, about 3 or 4 years ago.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now 8 minutes past 8, and Gel's already dissing Jordan Ayew. I think that.
I'm not dissing. I thought we had a reasonable game yesterday, but just watch the replay. He's supposed to. Where Jordan Ayew plays, he is supposed to help wherever. Either the left back if he's on the left, or the right back if he's on the right. And he didn't do either. He didn't do anything yesterday. Offensively, he was as good as what he was last week. But he's supposed to help.
Mr. Lyons, your thoughts, Mr. Lyons, please.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I use a changed man. He smiled twice in the whole 90 minutes. I mean, this is the future. But I agree with Jel. He just doesn't do enough for me still running back. There's a lot of effort in, but the original interjection was because, well, you're right. You're actually starting to understand the game, Nick. It's he didn't show it as a defender. He didn't show him down the outside. He allowed him to cut in. To be fair, the guy it was a cracking shot, and there's not much Johnson could have done with it. Wasn't it the only shot they had on target all game as well?
Yeah, something like that. There weren't many others. He wasn't tested for sure.
Okay, how did it look from your executive box, Ian?
Yeah, my executive box. I saw your comment earlier. Yeah, I wasn't in an executive box, but I'll tell you who was in an executive box yesterday. High Money, and she deserves every executive treatment she gets from Crystal Palace. So that was great. But we did have very good seats. Grant always sorts us very good seats at Brentford for the last 3 years. We had the same couple of rows at the front on the side bit. But, it was right in front of us. And, I get what you're saying, Nick, about Joel Ward should have shown him down the outside. But you've got to give the attacker credit for what he did. It was really
a good goal. It was a good goal.
But I also absolutely, Joe, you stole my thunder because I've got it written down here in my notes. Ayew tracking back, he could have got a foot in. If you watch the tape of it, Ayew sort of goes to make a challenge and he realises, I think, he's in the penalty area and he pulls back. And had he just followed through a bit, he would have done enough to put the guy off, I think, from getting the shot away. So Jordan Ayew, for me, really culpable there in the fact that we did concede, but it was a very, very good goal. And as I said earlier, against the run of play. And that's the first time in 5 meetings in Premier League era since we've been playing Brentford in the Premier League that we've been behind against them. You know, in the other 4 games, 2 of them were 0-0, 2 of them were 1-1, and we went in front in both the others. So interesting that how we responded to a very good Brentford side having gone behind against them. And of course we didn't. Our heads didn't drop. We carried on, kept to the game plan. It was an Anderson cross. Ayew headed wide. Maybe you should have done better. And then I'm going to use this term a couple of times today. A mazy run. Eze, a mazy run from the left, was blocked. He came inside, did really well, but the guys blocked him. Then Wissa headed over. It came at him quite quickly, but if it hadn't come at him quite so quick, it could have been 2-0. And the rain at this stage, just before half time, unbelievable. It really was very heavy. There was thunder, there was lightning, you name it. But we didn't get wet ourselves, so that was nice. I could have been in an executive box, Ian, actually. We were dry. So that was all I was worried about, really. More so than what was going on the pitch. No, that's not true at all. So that was the first half. We go in and we're 1 down. Anything else you guys want to say? Jel first, then Nick?
Yeah, just you allude to it slightly, but I just want to pick out that last year they lost 2 games at home, Brentford. They lost 2-1 to Newcastle, and the only time they got thumped was by Arsenal, and obviously Arsenal, a very good side last year. So, but they did the double over City last season. They beat Man United, they beat Liverpool, and they beat Brighton last year at home. So that's I'm pretty sure I said. Did I say 1-1 last week? I was, I honestly thought that a draw was a good result for us over there.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting you say that, Ian. I'm coming to you in a sec. Lee Lockwood's just pointed out a stat that I'd already seen posted yesterday. Do you realise that Crystal Palace are the only team that haven't lost against Brentford since they've been back in the Premier League? Ian?
Yeah, just on that, wasn't there a stat saying that it's the first fixture where the first 5 in the top division have been all draws?
That's right.
So yeah, I'm happy with the point. I would soon, especially after the first half. What I was going to ask is what your guys' thoughts were on the impact of the formation on Roy's tactics in the first half, as to how they dominated us for large periods of that, didn't they?
Yeah, I think from what Anderson said in a post-match interview, they did change it up at half time, and we played traditionally, I think, with both our defensive midfielders together deep. And then in the second half, we played with a 3 across the middle. Was that your understanding, Nick? Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah, it was actually something Roy covered at his post-match press conference that, Ian, you're quite right to highlight it, because it's something that he said that he didn't pick it up, Ray Lewington didn't pick it up, and the players didn't pick it up. They actually got it from the guy standing on the side of the pitch, the Palace guy standing on the side of the pitch with all these formations on his iPad. And he said he gave me a little word in my ear 2 minutes before the end of the half. If you do X, Y, and Z, and one of it was putting Eze out wide right, he said it's going to create a funnel through the middle so they won't have so much exposure to the Brentford coming onto them. And that's exactly what happened, because it really was a game of 2 halves, because the second half, as he is going to go through in a second, it was a completely dominant performance by us.
Yeah. We were better in the second half for sure. Again, started brightly. Actually, they had the first attack, I think, in the second half, if I remember rightly. And, you think, oh, goodness me, you really don't want to go 2 goals down early on in the second period. A couple of scares, but again, that was up the other end to where I was, so didn't see it that closely. But Ayo had a mazy run himself. He won a corner. And our stats were better than theirs. We'll come to the stats at the end, but our stats were slightly better, especially as our possession, I think, over the whole game was 40% to their 60. And then Eze goes to ground in the box. Again, a run. He's like in the 10 position. He goes to ground in the box. It wasn't a penalty in my mind. It wasn't like the one on Monday night where I did think we had a good shout for a pen, but this one wasn't particularly. But he did go to ground. And then one of the best things, I think, of the second half was Edouard's free kick. They lined up to get a free kick on the edge of the box, and you think, oh, who's going to take it then? You expect Eze to take it, but Edouard steps up. Now, he's at the goalkeeper, okay, and he dealt with it fairly comfortably, the kind of save you'd expect him to make, but at least he gets it up and over the wall with a reasonable amount of power and on target and forcing that save. And that's all I ask of anyone taking a free kick around the box, that we at least hit the target and force that save. And on another day, if he gets the angle slightly differently and he can get it in a corner, it's a goal. It's a good effort in my book for sure. Shortly after that, I think it was shortly after that, or maybe shortly before, I got mixed. On the Palace player highlights I watched back, they didn't cover this aspect, but it was on Match of the Day with Lerma's header from a corner. Really good header. Forced a fine save from their keeper, who parried it to the side, and Ayew followed through, and he made a second save. We were now knocking on the door at this stage. And Anderson, of course, he got his man of the match in the end, rightly so. He scored the goal, but he made the goal himself. I know, he's picking the ball up, and they've got 10 behind the ball, defending their goal. He slides it into Jordan Ayew, who had the presence to see his run and pass it back to him. And, I don't know whether he's intending to shoot there or not, or whether he's just trying to slide it across the goal. But, the defender and the keeper get themselves muddled up, and it goes through the keeper's legs, and it just sort of trickles over the line. And in the ground, you're sort of not quite sure, has it been given or not? But most of us could see that it actually had gone over the line. It was a fairly long way over the line. And he peels away to celebrate. Should have come over our side, though, shouldn't he? Rather than celebrate in front of the Brentford fans, that side, he could have peeled away the other way and come to us lot. Anyway, Jel.
Yeah, the actual way that when he slid in and scored, put it through the goalkeeper's legs, he'd probably done at least 3 of those challenges throughout the game. I think that was the order of the day, really. On another day, you're going to get a more wily opponent who will leave a leg there, and he's going to get cards or sent off or whatever. We've seen it before, but yeah, I thought he was so committed, and that was what that was. That was all about commitment. That was of making the run, getting the 1-2, carrying on, the determination of just the sheer will. You could see him the whole game. He was really, really up for it yesterday.
Sure.
Can I just jump in? Ian, I'm going to let you finish the game off in the second half. But the other Ian Lyons, because we haven't had you on the show for weeks and weeks and weeks, you and I haven't had an opportunity to talk about what I'm about to ask you. So forgive me in advance. I'd like your opinion, if you don't mind, on what we have in the Geehee and Anderson partnership, and sitting in front of them, Lerma and Decore partnership. That 4. How do you see that 4 developing, if we can keep hold of them all?
Well, I think they're solid. I think Lerma is a great asset with Decore, but I think this is why I wanted to come in as well about the changes that were made. Forget this analyst guy. It was all pinging around on the Red and Blue review chat at the first half. What made Roy's return so enjoyable is that he just let them play. He let them forward. And why we were overrun yesterday was because now he's got Lerma, he's reverted to type, and he's pitting him beside Decore. So they're a solid 4, and they make us quite narrow in that regard, and people have to go down the side. But what it does do is it brings teams onto you and doesn't allow you to then spring forward in attack. What you should have one of them staying in the defensive midfield role, and the other one pivoting off all the time. which is what happened in the second half. And that's why Eze was allowed then room, because Eze was isolated in the first half. Every time he got the ball, it was in the wrong areas, and he had no one around him because everyone was still behind him. But moving on to Anderson, that pivot, allowing that release, means that we're holding and carrying the ball further up the pitch, which gives him the space to run into. And as Jel said, and Ian said, he was a colossus yesterday. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're ideal conditions for a centre half wanting to take someone out, and going like this. Oh, I'm still sliding off the pitch. But he played a 1-2 on the edge of their box, centre back.
Yeah.
It was really good to see. But that all came about from that change in formation, and I want to see Hodgson sticking with that change of formation, because that's what makes us dangerous. When we started to run at them, they could not handle us, and they started fouling us, diving, doing this Thomas Frank teams, always do, trying to time waste as soon as they realised we were getting on top.
Jel.
Yeah, so the Lerma Decore partnership is very defensive, sort of just a stronghold in the middle. But I think out of the two, I think Lerma's the one that gets forward if he's allowed to come out of the midfield by the manager and express game, to push forward. He's the one that's probably going to be the more offensive out of the two. And you said to Ian about what have we got in those, the two centre mids and the two centre backs, and I'd say 300 million quid, which I hope Parish doesn't hear that, because that's basically our stand. So that's what he'll see. But just one more point as well. So because of the players that we've got missing, as in now, both of our wingers, our new 20 million euro winger and our new, our re-signed 60, 70 million pound wingers, we've got both of those to come back, and they are genuine wingers, which gives you, genuine width.
Yeah.
So I think having Eze to be out on the left when we need him, or out, well, Eze should really have the free role, but we have got other wide players coming in, and if we're led to believe that we are chasing one more winger and a forward before the end of the window, then for me, I think we've already got them in Hamada and Raksaki. So maybe just forwards we need.
Tony Quinn out in the chat is actually asking, let's talk about Guaita, Jean-Philippe Matata leaving, Hendo coming in, and all the rest of it. Tony Quinn, keep your powder dry. We're coming on to that very, 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 very shortly.
We will. Let me just finish this. There's only one other thing I want to say about the game, and it's interesting you're talking about Lerma, so let me just pick up on him. I think you're right, Jel. I think he will get forward more, but he does give Decore license to go forward as well occasionally, and you've seen him have pot shots around the box, haven't we? And sooner or later he's going to get one on target and score a goal. But Lerma put the ball into their box towards the end of the game when it was 1-1, and it was a fairly innocuous ball in, but their defender panicked and headed it backwards, and he headed it just wide of the goal. Their keeper was floundering. He was trying to get across. I don't think he would have stopped it if it had gone in, if it was on target, rather. So the point really that I'm encouraged by that, because I think what we need to do more of, and we should have done this more against the Arsenal when we were chasing the game, is get just balls into the box. Causes people problems. They make mistakes. Anything. Once the ball's in that penalty area, anything can happen. It can ping anywhere. So we just need to do more of that going forward.
Ian?
Yeah, you're right. And this is the fundamental issue with Edouard. He's not getting the service. He doesn't get the service. And when he does get the service, it's with his back to goal, and everyone's expecting him to make something out of nothing. They've got to get crosses into the box. When they get crosses into the box, and you release that pivot, and you got people in the box, we will cause havoc. But let's not hang forwards out to dry when they're not, when the formation is not, giving them a chance.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what we're expecting is a Harry Kane that can hold the ball up, hold three players off, run 40 yards, and then stick it in the corner of the net. Everyone's looking for those, and we're not going to be first in the queue. So, we need to be pragmatic about it.
Jill?
I just are we finished with the game now?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Finished 1-1. Everyone was happy. If you did the pools, if you didn't put that on as a score draw, you were stupid.
Yeah, exactly. It was the obvious draw of the day. So the hatred that Ward got yesterday was so poor. I just don't get it. I mean, again, that Shana, whatever his name is, he's at the beginning of his career and now probably going to cement a place in that side, a very good side in the Premier League. And Ward's coming to the end of his career, and at the moment, I think it's probably the best that we've got in that position for experience. So, but the hatred he got was absolutely awful yesterday. Almost come off Twitter. It's just such a. But so there's another thing, right? So I was just had that light bulb moment. People are screaming for us to sign this player and sign that player. So we've got Lerma in on a free, but with any free transfer, because we've not paid a transfer, they can automatically guarantee a fantastic wage. He will be one of the highest earners, I imagine, at the club, purely because of that. And so his wages will be huge. We've paid 15 million for Francha. We paid. I understand that we may have probably paid today 15 million off of for Henderson, and we're looking for another at least 2 players. And we're not going to bring in average Joes. So let's just say that we spend 15 million on each of the next 2 players, because that's the average it's working out. Where all of a sudden have we got 60 million quid from?
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you for the perfect segue, because, again, we were talking pre-show with reference to the Henderson thing. And my understanding is, having a good chat with Carl today, is that he was having his medical today. It will be announced Monday or Tuesday, very simply because obviously it's the bank holiday weekend. The deal is, as stated, so it's £15 million up front, because Man United were trying to get this keeper from elsewhere that we reported on last week on the show, and it proves that we were absolutely right. So it's 15 million quid and 5 million quid in add-ons. Those add-ons include an England appearance. So wherever he is in the England pecking order, I don't know. So Carl said to me last week, and he was absolutely right what he was saying, that the goalkeeper situation, the Guaito Downey Tall situation, came completely out of the blue. The club weren't expecting it. They hadn't budgeted for it. I say we covered most of this last week, and they simply hadn't budgeted for it. So anything that was spent on Henderson is over and above. So the whatever the transfer budget is does not include a goalkeeper. They've been forced into the situation because of the Guaita situation. So hopefully that covers your question. But the point about transfers, and people have been asking about it in the chat, is ignore Andrew Adams. I see your point about Henderson Johnson going to Wolves. Not true. I asked Carl the same question today. What you have with Henderson and Johnson are 2 goalkeepers who are best friends. In fact, Johnson has recommended Henderson to the club. Okay, why would he recommend Henderson to come take his own job? It doesn't make sense. Wherever that story's come from is complete fabrication. You're going to have 2 quality goalkeepers in Henderson and Johnson. So please put that to bed. There is absolutely no truth in the Wolves scenario, and they haven't made any offer anyway, Jill.
So much the same as Arsenal, really. They've already got a number 1, and now they've taken Raya for 40 million from Brentford. So yeah, they'll have 2 quality keepers.
Okay.
And what it does mean is that Remy Matthews will be number 3 choice, and young Joe Whitworth should hopefully go out on loan, because he does need minutes.
Yep.
Owen Goodman's gone out on loan, kept a clean sheet, by the way, at the weekend. And Joe Whitworth needs to do the same, whether it's in the Championship or League One. He needs to play week in, week out.
Ian?
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say, what does that mean for Whitworth? But yeah, clearly he needs to get out on loan. My only concern is Henderson is a big character. He's got a big ego about him. As you know, he's a bit bonkers like most goalkeepers. But it's how they're going to keep the pair of them happy, because he's not going to be happy being understudy for too long.
No, I agree with that. And I mean, we were again pre-show, we were looking up their age difference, and what did we say? Henderson is 26, and Johnson is what? Ian,
30.
29, yeah.
So what you're going to find is that Henderson will become our number one in time, but there's no rush because obviously we got Johnson there at the moment. Anyway, so before we move on, we're going to carry on with transfers and everything else in a second. Just a little update from today. The ladies had their first game at Gander Green Lane today, okay, and they ran out 1-1. It was a 1-1 draw against a recently relegated. Thank you, Greg. A recently relegated Reading side from the in the championship. So well done to the girls. That goal was scored at 90 minutes plus 9. So a really late equaliser for the Palace ladies. So good stuff. Good, a very positive start for girls. Now the reason we were talking about, we're going to be talking about the transfers is this. Now, thank you, Tom Clark Samuel, for compiling this list. I know you can't read it. I know you can't see it, but let me give you my assurances. There are 53 names on that list, which I shall explain in a second. Tom Clark Samuel does a great job for us on our Instagram page. Please get onto our Instagram page, like his posts, share them. There's the address. It's red_blue_review. Please get on there. Give him some support, bit of love. And then please comment on some of his posts because he works tirelessly for us, and I'm very grateful to him. And obviously, there's our YouTube channel at Red and Blue Review 8132. Get on there and look at our back catalogue if you wish to do so. So these 53 names that are on the list. Okay, what he's been doing for us since the start of the transfer window is compiling all the garbage on social media, all the crap that's on social media. They range from the ones that we have signed, like Franca, Hendo, that obviously is going to sign on over this weekend, but also the Draxler one. There's names on here of people that they look as though they're just being plucked out at random.
Hazard.
As Eden Hazard's on here.
Yeah.
Okay, another one. There's loads of them. I mean, names I can't even read. Yeah, Eden Hazard, Julian Draxler, they're all on here. Most of them are complete fabrication. Why people hang on every second, every concern that they read on Twitter, when we know it's the most, especially Palace Twitter, is the most toxic place on earth. It's just beyond me, but they do. There was one name on here, Sacha Bowie from Gallagher. I thought it was going to be Sacha Bowie Cohen or whatever his name was, but it's just garbage, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that's the one.
And get four out front.
Yeah, ignore that rubbish that's on there. And and if we are linked with a player, as Ian quite rightly pointed out, wait until he's holding the shirt up. We haven't even seen Henderson holding the shirt up yet. We will. I'm pretty certain that we will. It's as good as done. But it drives me mad. So, Lionsy, as you haven't been around for a while, I would like to know your thoughts on what we should be doing. Because I actually honestly believe that we're going to have quite a busy week this week. The transfer window closes at 11 p.m. on Friday evening. I will be home from work by about 8:30 that evening. If it's worth doing, we will jump on and do a live that evening if it's worth doing. But I think we could be quite busy. Lionsy, what do you think we need?
A prayer. No, I think we probably need a right back, cut for cover for Ward. You know, I know that it was he didn't have his greatest game yesterday, but he's been solid for years and years and years. But we need someone as an understudy, and Klein isn't necessarily an understudy because he's pretty much on the knacker's yard as well. So we need a right back. I still think we need creativity. We need to start looking at what all the other successful teams are doing, such as the Scum. You know, they've got three. They'll sell players, and then they'll have someone already in the club. And if Eze is being looked at, and as he will be, and and I will want to stand in his way after a couple more years, you need someone at the club already that's going to be there. So a number 10 for me, creative, and I don't know. I don't really think we need much more than that in a minute. I think the first 11 is a solid 11. It's about squad strength and it's squad depth. you know, and start having a look at some of the kids. Start bringing. We've had a massive culling in the academy, letting players go that I thought were pretty decent players. And then you look at the under 18s and the under 21s, and you know the trialists that Texter's bringing in, and we're signing up. And you're thinking, okay, all right, well, let's see some of them on the bench then, and let's give them a game.
Jel first, then I'll have a word.
I'm amazed we haven't picked a journeyman out the championship. I mean, yeah, everyone laughed when we got Glenn Murray and AJ, and they've turned out to be they've turned themselves into heroes in just a few years at Palace. So just players that honestly the setup is exactly the same. It's just more of a quality. Just putting the ball in the back of the net, and I'm sure that we could take a journeyman or someone that at least knows where the goal is and have them set up by Elise, because see, that's the thing. When you've got creative players that can pick a pass, that can, Elise can literally put it on a sixpence. You will score goals like that. I think that's the only, unless we spend, you know, you can take a £15 million striker is only going to come out of the Championship or League One. I just sort of take a complete punt on someone from I don't know, from Poland or, well, I was going to say Russia, but you know, from out east somewhere, you know, just but they're 50 million quid everywhere else.
I think the difference between Brighton and us is that they've got a better scouting system worldwide. Now, take this with a pinch of salt if you like, but there's a very, very good article about Tony Bloom and what he's done for that lot in the current 442 magazine. And a really interesting read, actually. And you know, whatever you think about them, you've got to give them credit for what they've done. Now, our scouting system isn't as extensive as that, clearly isn't, but we have got a very good sporting director in Dougie Friedman. He's done okay, and he's done better than okay in terms of bringing people to this football club up until now. And I'm, like you, Nick, I'm pretty sure that we've got a couple to come this week. You're right, Jel, and as much as it's the Championship we need to look at, possibly, or other players at Premier League clubs that are surplus to requirements. So, for example, Danny Ings is now linked with Everton. I don't know, you know, whatever you think of Danny Ings, is a finisher, is a kind of guy that knows where the goal is. The relegated clubs, in Ian Atcho from Leicester, we've been linked with him, and Shay Adams, Southampton, who's also been linked with Everton. So, you know, I said last week, I think the key position we need to fill in this window is a striker to compete with Odsonne Edouard. And then if Mateta wants away, then let him go. That said, Mateta's body language yesterday didn't lead me to believe that he was going anywhere. Because Mateta, when he's on the pitch, he is all about this with the fans and come on, Palace fans, get behind us. And they do like him and boom, boom, boom as soon as he comes on and all that. So, you know, we do need another striker to come and join this football club. I
think, I've just one thing on what you just said there, Ian, is you need to congratulate that lot's recruitment setup. I'd actually slightly disagree with that. What you need to do is congratulate their selling department. I mean, look at Casiado or whatever his name is. He has been absolute dog shit for Chelsea since he's been there. He hasn't put a ball. He's been rubbish. Even the Chelsea fans. Okay, we paid 115 million. And who's the guy? Who's the centre half that they sold to Arsenal?
Ben White.
Ben White. Average player, and they pulled Brighton. Casiado. Chelsea had their pants pulled down, and I mean, here we go. The boys are back in town. The old ultras are going for me. Go for it. Ian Lyons first, then John. I'm coming to you.
Right. No, yeah, but listen, don't get me wrong. People are they are pulling people's pants down for players for wage-wise. What it's doing is we should be saying, and that's right, people are coming for Doucouré. Doucouré's stats are pretty much identical to Casado's. So why all the papers are suddenly thinking that we can get Liverpool can put in a bid for 70 million is a joke. Say 90 million, we'll start talking. But you can't. The guy just played for like 35 minutes for Chelsea. Give him a break. He's a decent player. He's a dirty player.
He played on Friday night as well. He was rubbish.
But he's gone to a new club. I mean, if you're talking about donkeys, you've got to look at Mudryk, who they bought and spent 80 million on, and he's had a season and a bit. You can't judge someone. You can't judge him on that.
You're spot on, mate. Spot on.
Ferguson's the player. I'll tell you, Ferguson.
Jill?
Ben White was dreadful in his first 7 or 8 games for Arsenal, and now he's one of their strongest players. We'd never terrorise Ben White. He's got loads, so he's an absolute Rolls Royce, I think. But getting on to that, a lot of what allows for a scouting network to work properly is Chelsea have given Brighton 222 million in 2 years, and Liverpool have given 45 million for McAllister. Whether or not they're going to be involved in the slush fund, the debt slush fund that is the Premier League, where everyone owes everyone tens of millions, I don't know. I can't imagine Brighton. Tony Bloom is hugely astute businessman, and I think like us, we can't be waiting for. We sell a player for 50 million. That was when we sold Aaron. We got that money. It was as simple as that, because otherwise there was no point. There's no point taking £12 million for the next 3 years and then the balloon payment and on the 4th year. It just doesn't work for clubs like us. So Brighton have received the best part of 300 million off of the Premier League, but they're going to get it in bits. But they are starting to look at their scouting network is vast. But again, as much as it doesn't pay me to say, because it's never been a massive thing for me with Brighton. But I mean, for once they're in front of us, and we can, for once, learn from them.
Wow. I'm going to come in here, if I may, Nick and Jel, because Andrew Adams says, "Are we the new Chelsea signing up youngsters and getting decent loan fees?" John Knox, please can we stop talking about that lockdown on the South Coast? I apologise, partly my fault for introducing the subject, but it is important that we do compare ourselves with some of the teams around us that we're competing with in the Premier League. Dawn says, "Who cares about Chelsea?" Yeah, look, we're not wrong. They've spent far too much money. We're never going to spend that amount of money. Even a club like Bournemouth, though, I saw that go through earlier. They've spent over 100 million in this window. Bournemouth, little old Bournemouth. Ridiculous, I know. So we do have to spend some money, and we do have to sign a couple more players. Now, I'd be interested in the chat. Who else would you sign for Crystal Palace in this window? So this isn't just about us lot. You guys are watching this. Who else? We mentioned Shay Adams. We mentioned Ian Acho, Danny Ings. Who else would you want to see come into this football club?
Right. So I've got Ian. Before you go, I've got a couple more questions for you guys, and I would like your opinions, please. Let's work hypothetically. It's now 1 minute past 11 on Friday evening, and there's been no incomings. No more incomings. So Henderson has signed. Okay, França is on the sidelines, as we know, and Lerma on a free. 2 questions. Same person I'm talking about. Okay, were you concerned at all this week in the pictures that were released with the club with Dougie Freedman holding up 2 shirts with 2 Saudi guys and the possible links to Saudi Arabia? There you go. That picture there. That filled me with absolute dread when I saw it. So is that what our sporting director is doing in the background? Otherwise, so if we only bring in the players that I've just stated, would that then concern you? Ian, I know you're going to, Lyons, I know you're going to give me a real positive spin on this, but what do you think of that picture? And it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I don't want anything to do with their blood money. Ian Lyons, go.
Firstly, with regards to asking people about what players, what about if we sign no one else? Would you rather that we spent money on quality players rather than getting the likes of Jimmy Kebe in again? Right, the Saudi link, alleged. connection. I don't know. Maybe they buy Jordan Ayew for 300 million. I'll be happy with that.
Right. Okay. Jel?
So we were heavily linked, even though it's now documented again that Newcastle, now they don't have any more money to spend because they took Hall instead of us getting him loan. Would you not have taken the money if they'd have offered 50 million for Anderson? Would you not have taken their blood money? I'm only asking. I'm not taking a piece. I'm just saying.
Well, for a start, I don't think it's enough for Anderson. But,
okay. Whatever amount of money, would you take it off of Newcastle?
Yeah, of course you would.
Well, there you go. So there's nothing different. There's nothing different at all in a different part of the Middle East where the money comes from. Qatari money, Saudi money, whatever money.
I disagree. I'll tell you for why I disagree with you, Jill, is because I don't want them, if there's any thought process behind the scenes that Dougie's buttering them up as potential investors in our club, I don't want anything to do with it. Taking their money for players is one thing, but having them as part owners or investors in our club is something completely different. I disagree with what you said.
You can't have it. You can't have it both ways. The Saudis are involved in European football in an absolutely massive. They probably, by the time they've finished at the end of the next transfer window, they'll probably be 5 billion into it. They will surpass in 2 years what the Premier League does in 5. It's where the money's coming from. It's every football, regardless of where it's played, needs investment, and the investment is we've hit a huge limit of how much we can pay players. I mean, if it's true, I don't know what Al Attihad or whatever they're called. But if it's true, I heard the most unbelievable thing, and Jurgen Klopp has turned around and said, I hope he stays. But 350 grand a day for Mo Salah. A day, not a week, a day. Now, I don't care who you are. You ain't going to turn that money down. You go out there for 2 years, you can go and buy an island somewhere when you're finished. Money talks. No one really cares. No one really cares. I know you can protest. I don't want to pay the £12.50 for the ULIS charge. So unless I go and spend a crap load of money that I don't have on a new van, you know what I mean? You're forced into doing stuff sometimes for us to move forwards. All billionaire money has probably comes from a bad place. Except for Bezos, and he ain't going to come to the Premier League. So,
I mean, this is all very good, very, very well and good. But I know this is a football podcast, but there has to be some limit here on. Think about human rights issues out over there and everything else. And you can say that about Russia and everything everywhere else. But don't you think it's morally incorrect for us as a club? We pride ourselves on our diversity. It just fills me with this. Ian, go on.
Me or Lindsay? If I just come in, if I may, Ian, and I'll come to you in a sec. I think we need to bring this conversation back to players. As you said, it's a football podcast. So, I don't think you're wrong, Nick, in what you're saying about the fact that, it is wrong in many ways and human rights issues and all the rest of it. But in terms of the chat, I just want to bring out a couple of players that people have talked about. So Lee Clark said the Tottenham fullback Spence, we've been linked with him. He's a right back. Hang on, Jel. He's a right back, and he's a good lad. Why are you laughing?
The comment on the screen.
We'll come to that in a sec. Then you've got Somerville from Leeds as well. Been linked with him. Smith Rowe is a good shout. Someone said Smith Rowe's a Croydon boy. So there's a few names in there. I think they're decent names, decent shouts. Go on, what were you laughing at, Joe? I didn't see the comment.
I think it was something along those. If Jeff Bezos was involved with us, our players would be with us the next day.
Very good.
Ian Lyons, you wanted to make a comment? Go.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And those two, Ian, that you were talking about, both Croydon boys, both young, English, right back, creative. The two that I said that we need to cover, they would be ideal. Whether but I don't. It's not going to happen. Nick, I love your puritanic stance on it, but you've just got to get with it now. It's the greed in football, the money in football means that sport washing is a thing. We have to either roll with it or get left behind. Now, I'm not saying that, we all know what happened a couple of years back when the approach was made and everything else. And, maybe there would have been a lot stronger views had a takeover happened then directly. But if the money is flowing through, it's just money laundering. Just give it a different name, isn't it? At the end of the day, just to make them look good. Look what it's doing to golf. Look what it's about to do to tennis and everything else. At the end of the day, if we're making profits, we're building as a team, we're building as a club. I'm afraid we've just got to go with it.
And I'm going to come to you in a second. My main point here, really, boys, was actually to do with our sporting director. If we close the window at 11 o'clock on Friday night with just the 2 signings, or possibly 3 with Endo, okay, are we still very pleased with our sporting director? Ian Noble, you made the point earlier about how successful he's been. Yeah, he's had 1 good window out of what, 4? I'm not. I won't.
Listen. I think if you that scenario you just painted, I think it will be disappointing. It'll be a disappointing window. I don't expect for a moment he's been sitting on his backside doing nothing. He's been trying to get these players over the line. Sometimes it doesn't work, does it? Sometimes you offer a deal and then the player at the last minute says he doesn't want to come or whatever it is. But I'd like to see certainly another couple come in for sure. Andrew Adams says. Spencer's had issues, probably attitude issues in the past. Yes, slight concern, maybe. We shall see.
Congratulations to the Oval Invincibles who have just won the 100. They are a South London team, so congratulations to them. In the last 30 seconds, that is. Joe, you wanted to make a point?
Yeah, we've gone on from a little bit more, but it's just all about your moral compass. That's all. In life, if you don't want Saudi money, then it's all well and good. And if the club think they can afford to turn down, if there is any kind of approach from any kind of investment, whether it's just a player investment, whether it's taking percentages of the football club, buying certain people out, your moral compass is tested. If you really do think that, if every Geordie, their moral compass pointed in the direction of just goodness. Let's just say, as a good stand-up person who had certain values, then they'd get 440 at watching Liverpool today. The rest would be Scousers, but they're not. They're not worried. You turn a blind eye. It's what happens in life. People turn a blind eye because it happens to them. And I'm telling you now, had the stuff that we know went on behind the scenes 4 or 5 years ago with us, with that Saudi, with the people that bought Newcastle, then we would have turned a blind eye. You'd still buy season tickets. Grant would still buy his. Ian would still buy his. My brother-in-law would still buy, and I'd still watch it on the telly. So,
you're speaking globally there, and you're speaking for all of us. But I'm going to tell you now, bullshit. I would not be buying my season ticket. Ian Lyons.
And fair play to you for that. Going back to the transfer window, if we signed no one else, I think it's fine. As I said before, I think I'd rather buy good players than waste money on bad. And we've seen a mixture in the last few windows. But this window, I think, has been okay to date. And we know, is it Friedman that's the issue? Is he, or is it Parish, or is it the board? Is there money there to spend? I mean, clearly we've got a little bit, but on what? Have we been saving it up? We're hiving it away. Is it the Wilf money that we've saved? I don't know, but I'd sooner not end up with another scenario like everyone. We were all so euphoric with about 14 players coming in when Holloway was there. you know, and look at the state. Look at the state of that. That was an absolute mess.
Car
So
crash.
yeah. So if there's no one decent now for us to buy, don't buy them.
And I think you'll find that that's what will happen, Ian, because Steve Parish has said before, isn't he, you know, publicly, that he won't just get anyone in for the sake of it. You know, it's got to be the right people, the right players, the right fit for this football club. So, you know, like a lot of people are saying in the chat, you know, be disappointed if they don't get anyone else. But look, it won't be a disaster if we don't sign anyone else. What's also very important in this window is not just incomings, but outgoings. We haven't spoken about that at all. We've touched on it. We've talked about the price of these players. All these players we brought in for around the 20 million mark, the Andersons, the Gahys, the Doucourés. We paid about 20 million for each of them. You know, if any of them were to go, it's north of 70 million for every single one of them.
Did you just say it won't be a disaster if you don't bring anybody else in?
Yeah, I did actually. Just let me finish. Nick, let me finish. So we mustn't lose any other players in this window. We really mustn't lose any of our star players. As long as we keep them. I'm slightly contradicting myself here. I want to see new people in. I want to see the right person. I want to see a striker to compete with Edouard. But as long as he says, if we don't, it's not a disaster. Go.
We can't. The Wolf money was 10 million, 200 grand a week. So it was only 10.4 million or whatever. So we'd have had to have his wages for the year, not for the 4 years. So we haven't got that 40 million that we offered him as exposure straight away, which is why I'm surprised that if we've actually been forced to pay money up front, that we would have already by the end of this week shifted 30 million plus Lerma's wages, and Lerma must be at least 5 million a year. It must be at least that.
And a new contract for Elise and a new contract for Eze.
For Eze. So we're probably looking, I would say, maybe the north of the best part of 50. Now we had another two 15 million pound players on top of that, and that's the money we definitely don't. We only had that kind of money when What's His Face came in and gave 90 million quid for his, 1/4 share of the club. So I don't know.
I've been biding my time here, and Andrew Adams is saying, Nick, have you ever had a bad day because you're on one tonight? I haven't had a bad day. I've had a really good day, but I can't believe what I just heard. If we don't bring any more players in, it won't be a disaster. We're going down if we don't bring any. We haven't got.
We're not.
No.
I'll let you speak. Let me have a go. Okay. Name me the backup squad. I'll give you Henderson and Johnson is your backup player. Okay, either one. Okay, go through the rest of the squad and tell me your backup. They clearly don't fancy Chris Richards at centre half. Okay, we don't have another centre half. Kelly's going. We haven't got a backup team. In fact, I'm coming on to the fixtures coming up this week. Okay, and who are we going to be playing at Plymouth tomorrow night? I guarantee you it'll either be kids. Thank you. Greg, it's either going to be kids or it's going to be our first team players again. Our first team players. Ian Lyons, you wanted to make a point.
Right. Okay. So I understand what you're saying, but you're not going to get 12 backup players, right? So it's completely unrealistic. So you'd sooner get quality players in. We've already spoken about the squad. And the fact that you've got a basic 11, and then we do need a few. You don't just buy players for the sake of it. That's where the academy comes in. What is the point of the academy? What is it if you're not going to bring? If you're always going to bring, that you just end up like another Chelsea, another Liverpool, another Arsenal. You just buying players in over them, and then you sell them off to someone else for them to come through. We've got to giving them a chance.
And you're making a great point, and it needed to be said as well. Listen, I think there's no point having a podcast where we all agree with each other. It'd be boring, and what I don't want is a bunch of nodding heads, amongst us. The whole point of this is a discussion that we're all entitled to different opinions, and boy, have we had them this evening. So I thank you three for that, because it's been really interesting. Coming up this week, we have our Carabao Cup game away at Plymouth Argyle, Tuesday evening, 29th at 19:45. Then we're at home to Wolves on Sunday, the 3rd of September, 2:00 kickoff. And then Sunday on the 16th of September at what time is that? Oh, 3 o'clock kickoff. We're away at Villa Park. So there's the fixtures coming up. It's very difficult to. I was going to ask you for predictions on the Plymouth game, boys, but I'm not going to because we simply don't know what squad he's going to put out. So, boys, what we will do is I'll have your predictions, please, for the Wolves game next Sunday at 2 o'clock at Sellers Park. Jel, you first. Predictions,
2-0.
2-0. Mr. Lions.
Oh, I'm not so sure. I'm going to go for a draw.
I'll go 2-1 then. I was going to go 2-0, but I can't go the same as Jill, so I'll go 2-1. We'll concede in the last minute.
And I've just done one. I've done my
We'll win.
I've done my Super Six, and I actually went for a draw as well, Mr. Lions. So it's quite scary that me and you're on the same wavelength with something. I don't know. I can't bear it. There's the league for you. Actually, that's not right. I thought we were up to 10th.
We're 11th, mate.
Are we? I thought we were. I thought I saw. Have we gone down to place? Oh no, I don't know what it was. I thought
Chelsea above us yet?
Yeah, sadly they are on goal difference. On goal
First time for a long time.
Yeah, I know. But listen, for Greg Ellis in the background, thank you for producing tonight. Ian Lyons, don't be a stranger. We'd love having you back on because you bring a different, probably a more sensible line than I can ever talk about football. So I appreciate it. Nice to see you, mate. Thank you.
Go to sleep, Nick. You've had too much to drink, obviously.
Nobley and Holyoke, love you both. Thank you so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen out in the chat, I've been Nick Philpott. They'll be the best team in the world. Good night, everybody. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.